I would be remiss if I didn't include in this presentation a short analysis of Sabbatean Frankism, because it is so influential in the destructive ideologies that we've been talking about. Sabbatean Frankism was a heretical Jewish religious movement of the 18th and 19th centuries, centered on the leadership of the Jewish Messiah claimant Jacob Frank. Frank rejected traditional religious norms and taught that his followers were obligated to transgress as many moral boundaries as possible. Sabbatean Frankism has its roots in the Sabbatean sect of Turkey, a religious movement that identified the 17th century Jewish rabbi Sabbatai Zevi as the Jewish Messiah or world savior. Zevi's teachings can ultimately be summarized by this maxim, quote, "What is holy is unholy, and what is unholy is holy." Unlike traditional Judaism, which asserts that cumulative acts of righteousness will eventually bring the coming of the Messiah, the Sabbatean interpretation inverted the traditional Jewish view to support the opposite conclusion, postulating that it would be easier to accelerate the flow of chaos, to utterly destroy civilization than to perfect it. And once the world is forced into complete ruin, God would then be forced to start the Messianic age to save the world. This is lunacy. Frank advocated for the rejection of all moral, religious, and social norms, and asserted that the most important obligation of every person was the transgression of every moral boundary. Frank may have developed this distorted religious view from a degraded form of Gnosticism, a first-century religious belief wherein there was a true God whose existence was hidden by a false god called the Demiurge. The true God could allegedly be revealed only through a total destruction of the social and religious structures that were created by the false god. For Frank, the very distinction between good and evil may have been seen as a product of a world governed by the Gnostic false god or Demiurge. This is where religious ideologies that go haywire just create complete devastation in our world. That's why the influence of religion has to really be watched. Sabbatean Frankism has been described by some researchers as the historical roots of cultural Marxism, and by others as the paradigm of the modern left. Communism, socialism, fascism, corporatism, and critical theory are all ideologically linked to Sabbatean Frankism, in that they all seek the inversion of moral values and to replace them with irrational, destructive impulses and the satanic worldview that, quote, everything is permitted. Some researchers have postulated that Karl Marx himself may have subscribed to Sabbatean Frankist ideology and purposefully built upon their ideas as a mechanism to ideologically subvert and eventually destroy Western civilization. As an ideology of inversion and destruction, which is exactly what Satanism is, Sabbatean Frankism parallels the most famous quote from John Milton's Paradise Lost: "Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven." This is the very essence of the worldview and ideology of all dark occultism. Next, let's take